Alright, as of today, The Boys Season 4 has officially wrapped up with its last episode, and it was insane. Of course, we can talk about Butcher and his cancerous tentacle monster guts or whatever the hell that was. Of course, we can talk about Victoria Newman's death. Of course, we can get into the whole Annie and her diabolical evil twin shape-shifting enemy of this episode. There's a bunch of things we can get into, but let's be honest. Well, what do we really want to talk about? We want to talk about that goddamn ending, and most likely the season overall, right? I mean, it has been definitely the most divisive season out of any of the seasons that have come out so far. Maybe talk a bit about that, but let's just get into it. That ending was insane. I did hear reviews earlier on when the first few episodes of the show came out, and I did hear people say that, oh, the ending's not going to be as exciting. It's going to be a little lackluster compared to other seasons. And to me, no. I completely disagree with that. I thought it was exceptional. Now, I did have already a theory in my mind that at some point, at the very end, that our group, our boys, would get split up and Homelander would win on some level. How? I had no fucking idea, and I definitely didn't think a giant penis was going to be involved, but this is The Boys. I should have known. But with that said, I don't think I felt the stakes more in the universe of The Boys than in this very episode, and in fact this entire season. And I know we can go ahead and say it wasn't the most exciting of the other seasons, I guess more so when it comes to pacing, and sure, that's fine and I can agree with that, but I definitely think it's done the most for consequences to the actual world that this universe is set in. And I really do believe this is the season, and this episode gave the feeling of, oh shit, things are finally starting to feel grander than the first few seasons really led on. And now we're getting to this point where my heart was just pounding. Like, it really does feel like, oh shit, this really is the end of the world. And I know they kept reminding us that all season, and if you go back to the earlier seasons, the boys kept saying that, but you could really feel that it was coming from a place of feeling wronged and angry and bitter towards these beings rather than it actually being the case. But no, we're seeing it. That is the case. We're getting into an apocalyptic situation, and it's fucking scary. Now, Homelander's basically president now, right? He has his fist so far up that guy's ass. He might as well just be the president at this point. Butcher is like the only one that fucking, it seems at this moment, isn't captured. And everyone's just kind of split up. And I really do think the trajectory of next season, which thank God is the final season, because I don't think they should be dragging it out longer than it needs to be, is going to be great. And I really don't know how they're going to undo or get themselves out of the corner that they've put themselves in the final few minutes of this episode and the season as a whole. Now, to reflect back on the whole season, I really did like it. But when it comes to The Boys, I've always enjoyed their political satire. I do believe this season they took it a bit too far, and it wasn't as even as it's been in other seasons, but for the most part, I was completely okay with it, and it didn't ruin the experience of watching it. And I just really loved when I looked at it from the continuity point of view, the point of view of the universe, not in our actual point of view of our world, as in how they're trying to make satire of our world. When I'm just focusing plainly on the story at hand, I really liked what they were doing. And by the end, the whole Sister Sage and Homelander dynamic was just awesome. He kind of found his equal. He goes, oh, I broke my promise to you. And he goes, she doesn't give a shit because she just had a fun time. And he's just like, whoa, what the fuck? And you can just kind of see that in that moment, you can just see in his eyes, like, oh my God, I found my soulmate, basically. And so I found that actually really, really interesting. Honestly, if I had one gripe about this season, if I just had one real gripe, the Frenchie subplot was kind of unbearable. At first, I was kind of okay with it. It was kind of repetitive. The whole will they, won't they with him and Kamiko. And then they introduced this new love interest in Colin, which was completely fine. And honestly, that's where it should have stopped. But then it starts getting into, oh, I killed his family and I'm guilty. And then I'm turning myself into the police. And now I'm going back to drugs and alcohol and all. That was just ridiculous. Like, they should have, if they wanted to introduce a third love interest to build, you know, some tension, I still would have been opposed to it. But if they were going to do that, that's fine. Should have just left it at that. But, you know, they just took it too far, and it was just weird. I was not a fan of that. About episode 5, I was just like, okay, this is getting fucking ridiculous. But besides that, the season was really good. And the one thing I don't really think anyone's talking about, they've really upped their game when it comes to their fight choreography. I mean, everyone knows that first in the first season with Maeve, when she's like training and it was just horrible. Everyone knows that scene. It got memed to death. But no, this scene, all the action scenes were very competently well done, and I just thought, you know, they're really, really taking criticism from earlier seasons and really trying to make it more of a spectacle, and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, as regards to the future of The Boys, it looks extremely bright. We got one more season, and I think it's going to close out on a high note, and I think it will go down in history as one of the greatest shows ever made. So I was very happy with this season, and I am very happy to see where it goes next.